Deliverance Headwash is a profound spiritual practice that engages both the physical and spiritual realms. It serves as a method of purification, a defense mechanism in spiritual warfare, and a deliberate ritual for aligning the mind, thoughts, and energy with divine purpose. At its core, the act of washing the head symbolizes more than cleansing. It is an assertion of spiritual authority, a method for restoring order to the crown of life, and a means to remove the influences of witchcraft and negative spiritual forces. The head, as the physical seat of thought and spiritual authority, is profoundly significant in both natural and spiritual terms. Throughout Scripture, the head is referenced as the crown of life, representing both the divine order and the place of mental and spiritual dominion. This is not just about hair or outward appearance. It is about the internal power and strength that come from spiritual alignment. When we engage in the ritual of head washing, we are not merely cleansing the physical body, but also actively engaging in spiritual warfare, purging the mind, thoughts, and spiritual faculties of all negative influences. Scripture offers profound insights into the spiritual significance of the head. In 1 Corinthians 11:3, Paul writes, "But I want you to understand that the head of every man is Christ. The head of a woman is man, and the head of Christ is God." This passage underscores the importance of the head as a place of authority and alignment with divine will. The head is the seat of spiritual leadership, the crown of life that governs the thoughts and decisions of an individual. Through the ritual of head washing, we acknowledge this divine order and reaffirm our submission to God's authority. It is through this submission that we actively reject any spiritual interference that seeks to displace God's divine influence over our lives. The physical act of washing the head itself is a ritual that aligns the body with the mind and spirit. Water, often seen as a symbol of purification and cleansing in Scripture, becomes a powerful conduit in the head wash ritual. Ezekiel 36:25 affirms this when God promises to sprinkle clean water on you, and you shall be clean from all your uncleannesses, and from all your idols I will cleanse you. In the same way that God cleanses his people, the head wash ritual purges the mind and thoughts, clearing away the spiritual residue that has accumulated through exposure to negative forces. Each drop of water, touching the scalp and flowing through the hair, serves as a reminder that purification is not just about external cleanliness, but internal realignment. The act of washing the head with water draws attention to the significance of the mind and thoughts, which are easily influenced by external spiritual forces. Hair, as part of the head, holds significant spiritual meaning. In the Bible, hair is not only a physical trait, but a symbol of spiritual consecration and divine authority. The Nazirite vow, as described in Numbers 6:5, commands that a Nazirite must not cut their hair as an outward sign of their consecration to God. Similarly, in the context of the head wash ritual, hair represents the uncut, unblemished connection to God's spiritual authority. The water in the head wash ritual purifies this connection, ensuring that no interference from witchcraft, negative energy, or spiritual manipulation can corrupt the mind or the path that God has set before us. Each strand of hair, touched by water, symbolizes a point of spiritual cleansing where thoughts, desires, and spiritual faculties are restored to their rightful order under God's dominion. The act of washing the hair becomes an act of surrender, a willingness to let go of any thoughts or desires that do not align with God's will. As water flows over the scalp, it represents the flow of divine cleansing, not just externally, but internally as well, as we surrender our minds and spiritual faculties to God's sovereignty. Spiritual warfare, as we engage it through the headwash ritual, seeks to neutralize the power of witchcraft, curses, and other negative spiritual influences that target the mind. The mind is often the battlefield in spiritual warfare, where thoughts are either aligned with God's truth or subject to manipulation. Witchcraft and spiritual attacks often target the mind, distorting perceptions, clouding judgment, and introducing confusion. The headwash ritual is a direct method of combating these forces. As the water cleanses the scalp and hair, it also purifies the mind, restoring clarity, focus, and divine alignment. Scripture reveals that the mind is the seat of both spiritual authority and vulnerability. In Romans 12:2, Paul instructs, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God." The renewal of the mind is key to maintaining spiritual clarity and authority, and the headwash ritual directly supports this transformation by cleansing and purging the mind from external influences. This act of spiritual purification allows us to regain control over our thoughts, align them with God's will, and fortify our spiritual defenses against any negative spiritual forces. The physical act of washing the head is not just about cleansing the body. It is about redirecting and realigning the energies that flow through us. As the head represents the crown of life, the washing of this part of the body is symbolic of the renewal of life's energy and purpose. The water, flowing over the scalp and hair, helps reset the individual's spiritual frequency, bringing it into alignment with divine purpose. This alignment is essential for spiritual warfare, as it strengthens the individual's ability to discern and resist negative spiritual influences. By incorporating the principle of spiritual cleansing into our daily lives, we begin to actively reclaim our spiritual authority. The headwash ritual becomes a declaration that we will not be subject to spiritual manipulation or oppression. As the water touches the scalp, we reaffirm our connection to God and His divine authority, rejecting any forces that seek to control our minds, influence our thoughts, or redirect our life's path. Spiritual resilience is built through practices like the headwash ritual, which actively engages the body and mind in alignment with divine principles. It is through the deliberate engagement of both the physical body and the spiritual mind that we restore our spiritual authority and cleanse our thoughts from external contamination. Through regular practice, this ritual reinforces the divine protection around us and fortifies the mind against attacks from the enemy. As the ritual progresses, it is important to remain mindful of the spiritual significance behind each movement. The act of washing the head is not performed in haste, but with careful attention and reverence. Each step, the application of water, the focusing of thought, the cleansing of the mind, becomes an intentional act of spiritual engagement. In this way, the head wash ritual also serves as a method of mindfulness, drawing attention to the sanctity of the mind and the need for continual spiritual renewal. Head wash is an act of profound spiritual significance rooted in both physical cleansing and spiritual warfare. Through the physical ritual of washing the head, we engage in the act of purifying our minds and thoughts, protecting our spiritual faculties from negative influences. By recognizing the importance of the head, as the crown of life, we acknowledge the need for continual spiritual purification and realignment. This practice serves as both a defense and a proactive strategy in spiritual warfare, helping to restore clarity, focus, and divine purpose. Through the headwash ritual, we reclaim spiritual authority, fortify our spiritual defenses, and actively engage in the process of spiritual purification. The act of headwash emerges as a central tool in the practice of spiritual warfare. It is more than just an action of cleansing the physical body. It is a profound spiritual ritual, capable of restoring mental clarity, reinforcing divine protection, and empowering the individual in the face of adversarial forces. In a world where spiritual battles are often unseen but deeply felt, the headwash stands as a deliberate and effective method for reclaiming spiritual authority over one's life and destiny. To understand the true power of the headwash ritual, it is essential to acknowledge that the head, both symbolically and spiritually, is the crown of life. The head holds dominion over the body and mind, representing authority, wisdom, and the ability to make decisions that govern one's path. When a person engages in spiritual warfare, they are not simply fighting against physical forces, but against ideologies, emotions, and spiritual strongholds that influence how they think, act, and perceive the world. The headwash ritual, therefore, directly engages the mind, the thoughts, and the spiritual faculties that allow for clear discernment, decision-making, and resistance against negative forces. Scripture consistently emphasizes the importance of the head in spiritual terms. In 1 Corinthians 11:3, Paul outlines the divine order of authority, where Christ is the head of man, man is the head of woman, and God is the head of Christ. This order represents the divine structure through which spiritual authority flows. The head serves as the central point where spiritual authority is established. And when this spiritual authority is under threat, whether by external manipulation, internal confusion, or spiritual oppression, the headwash ritual provides a means of restoration, cleansing, and alignment. In cleansing the head, we are reaffirming our position under divine authority and rejecting any forces that seek to alter our spiritual order. In the context of spiritual warfare, the mind is often the battlefield. Thoughts, emotions, and beliefs can become contaminated, especially when exposed to negative spiritual forces or witchcraft. Witchcraft attacks, whether through generational curses, manipulative spirits, or negative thought patterns, often target the mind, distorting perception, clouding judgment, and leading the individual away from their spiritual path. The headwash ritual then serves as a method to cleanse the mind of these attacks, removing the debris of spiritual interference, fear, and confusion. It reestablishes the individual's connection to clarity, peace, and spiritual wisdom. The physical nature of the ritual, washing the head with water, provides a tactile reminder of the need for spiritual cleansing. Water, a natural element, is often used in Scripture as a symbol of purification. In Ezekiel 36:25, God promises to sprinkle clean water on you, and you shall be clean from all your filthiness, and from all your idols I will cleanse you. This cleansing extends beyond the physical body, penetrating into the spiritual realm. As the water flows over the head, it becomes a conduit of divine grace, removing the impurities of negative influence and restoring the individual to a state of spiritual purity. The symbolism of hair as part of the head is deeply significant in this ritual. In the Bible, hair often symbolizes strength, consecration, and divine purpose. When Samson's strength was tied to his uncut hair, it became a literal and symbolic connection to his spiritual power. The head wash ritual, through the cleansing of the hair and scalp, serves to purify not only the mind, but spiritual strength that resides within the individual. Each strand of hair becomes a point of focus, an area of spiritual engagement, where thoughts, intentions, and desires are purified and brought into alignment with God's will. The mental focus that is required during the head wash ritual cannot be overstated. This is not a passive action. It requires full mental and spiritual engagement where the individual concentrates on the act of cleansing, the realignment of thoughts, and the rejection of negative spiritual forces. As Psalm 51:10 implores, "Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me." The head wash ritual is the physical act of this spiritual request. It is a declaration that we desire a pure heart, untainted by the influence of fear, confusion, or spiritual oppression. The water that touches the scalp represents the renewal of the spirit, washing away all that is not in alignment with God's truth. Furthermore, the head wash ritual underscores the importance of spiritual vigilance and discipline. Spiritual warfare is not a one-time event, but an ongoing process of engagement and protection. The head, representing the mind and thoughts, must be continually guarded, cleansed, and realigned. Witchcraft, fear, and manipulation are persistent forces that seek to infiltrate the mind and soul, subtly distorting perception over time. The head wash ritual becomes an act of ongoing protection, reminding the practitioner to be vigilant in maintaining spiritual purity and clarity. By engaging in the First Deliverance Headwash, the practitioner takes an active role in their spiritual well-being. This is not a ritual that simply removes external impurities. It is a profound statement of personal authority, a conscious effort to take control of the mind and life energy and place it in alignment with divine truth. Through the application of water and the meditative focus on the head, the practitioner reasserts their sovereignty over their spiritual faculties and reclaims any ground that may have been compromised by external forces. The act of head washing also invites divine protection into the life of the believer. As water cleanses the physical body, it serves as a reminder of the spiritual protection offered by God, creating a shield around the individual and surrounding them with divine favor and guidance. This protection is not only defensive, but also proactive, ensuring that the mind and spirit remain aligned with the truth, free from the influence of witchcraft and spiritual interference. Spiritual warfare is a dynamic process, and the head wash ritual serves as a regular and strategic practice for engaging with spiritual forces. By continually purging the mind, cleansing the thoughts, and reaffirming divine authority, the individual ensures that their spiritual faculties remain sharp, focused, and aligned with God's will. It is through such practices that we maintain our position in spiritual clarity, actively protecting ourselves from negative influences and cultivating an atmosphere of divine favor and insight. In closing, the First Deliverance Headwash ritual stands as a powerful tool for spiritual cleansing and empowerment. It is a method that integrates the physical act of purification with the spiritual reality of engaging in spiritual warfare. By recognizing the head as the crown of life and understanding the significance of cleansing both mind and body, the individual becomes equipped to resist spiritual manipulation, reclaim their spiritual authority, and walk in alignment with divine truth. This ritual serves as an ongoing practice that reinforces clarity, spiritual resilience, and divine protection, ensuring that the practitioner remains steadfast in the battle against spiritual opposition.